Before and after example. Too much? Before and after example. Before and after example.
Okay.
Before and after example. That's better, whatever. What's up, you beautiful beasts? In this video, I'm gonna say something that might get me escorted out of the goal-setting community center. I think SMART goals are dumb. Not because planning is dumb and not because structure is dumb, but because SMART goals were built for projects, not people. And you, my dear, are not a robot that can be fixed with a tighter schedule. You're a whole-ass human with a nervous system, a life, a brain that gets overstimulated, and a body that sometimes chooses chaos like it's a hobby. If you've ever set a goal and then watched it fall apart the second real life showed up, I need you to hear this. You're not broken. SMART goal setting is just sometimes the wrong tool for real live humans. Let's get into it.
Disclaimer. Educate the Beast is a space for reflection, not prescription. I'm here to offer insight, spark curiosity, and explore the messy, beautiful layers of health, movement, food, and mindset. I'm not your doctor, and I would never pretend to know your body better than you do. I am an NASM certified personal trainer, certified nutritionist, and master neurotransformational results coach. So I do bring my training to the table, and I also believe curiosity is a superpower. That means I stay open, ask questions, and keep learning too. If something here resonates, take it with you. Do your research, ask questions, start conversations. Your care should reflect your story, your body, your values, and your becoming. You deserve support that's informed, compassionate, and made just for you.
First of all, what are SMART goals? Okay, so before we roast the acronym, we should probably define the acronym, right? SMART goals are a super common goal-setting framework where you make your goals specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And yeah, this is totally legit. Even NASM, the National Academy of Sports Medicine, where I got my training, teaches SMART goals. So if you love SMART goals, you're not wrong and you're not basic. You're literally following a widely taught professional framework. I'm just saying that this system is great for building IKEA furniture and a little less great for building a consistent human with feelings in a snack drawer. So here's what each letter means in plain English. S is for specific. Specific means that you get clear about what you're actually doing. Not get healthy, but something concrete like strength training, walking, or cooking at home. It's taking a fuzzy goal and giving it a job description. M is for measurable. Measurable means that you can track it in some way, like how many days per week, how many minutes, how many workouts. Basically, it's your brain asking for receipts. A is for achievable. Achievable means it's realistic for you, not for a wellness influencer with no responsibilities and a fridge full of pre-cut fruit. It's supposed to be within reach, not a personal attack. R is for relevant. Relevant means that it matters to you and connects to your actual values and priorities, not something you copied from the internet because it sounded impressive. And then the T is for time-bound. Time-bound means there's some kind of time frame attached, like by the end of the month, for the next 8 weeks, or 3 times per week. It's kind of giving the goal a calendar instead of letting it float around as a someday dream. So instead of saying, I want to get healthier, a SMART version might sound like doing strength training 3 times per week for 30 minutes for the next 8 weeks. It's basically the difference between a wish and a plan. Now on paper, SMART goals sound responsible. They sound like you own a label maker. They sound like your inbox has 0 unread messages. But the problem is not the acronym. The problem is how it plays out inside of an actual human life. Why SMART goals backfire for human habit? A lot of goal-setting advice assumes that you are a machine. Push button, get result. If the plan doesn't work, clearly you need more willpower and maybe a colder shower and maybe also become a different person entirely. But human habits are emotional and contextual. They're influenced by stress, sleep, mental load, hormones, pain, your environment, and the fact that Thursday happened, and Thursday is always doing the most. When SMART goals work, they feel amazing, but when they don't, people usually turn it into a character flaw. They assume something's wrong with them, they must lack discipline, they must lack willpower, they must be the problem. And I wholeheartedly and respectfully disagree, and I'm about to put your nervous system on the witness stand. The SMART goal problem, letter by letter. Okay, let's talk about how each part of SMART can accidentally sabotage you when the goal is a human habit. Specific. Specific sounds helpful until it becomes rigid. Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 a.m. is cute until your kid wakes up early and pukes, work explodes, you sleep like shit, your brain refuses to cooperate, or your body decides it's a sloth today. And then the goal collapses because it had no flexibility built in. And the internet loves to respond to that with a lecture about discipline. Like if you wanted it badly enough, you'd do it anyway. And they don't say it kindly either. It's always some aggressive motivational poster energy like, wake up earlier, stop making excuses, nobody cares, just do it. As if yelling at a stranger's nervous system is the same thing as helping them build a habit. They act like discipline is a personality trait that you either have or you don't. And if you struggle, it must mean that you're weak or lazy or not committed enough. Meanwhile, you're over here dealing with real life, real stress, real sleep deprivation, real responsibilities, and a body that is clearly saying we are at capacity. And your nervous system's in the corner trying to opt out while the internet is screaming harder. Not helpful. And yeah, I'm totally aware that was a rant, and I feel so much better now. Okay, measurable. Sounds motivating until it becomes moral. A lot of us have a history of using numbers as a character grade. Weight, steps, calories, streaks, minutes, whatever. If the number goes sideways, we feel like we did something wrong. If you want my full rant and a deeper breakdown of how tracking can quietly mess with your mindset, click here. Or here. I don't ever know where it goes. Measurement isn't inherently bad. It's the meaning that we assign to it that determines whether it supports us or stresses us out. Achievable. It sounds practical until it turns into a guessing game that we pretend is science. Yeah, we can usually tell when something's clearly unrealistic, like if your goal is to work out 2 hours a day, 7 days a week while raising kids, working full-time, and sleeping 6 minutes a night. We can call that. But most of the time, we actually don't know what's achievable until we try because it depends on your season of life, your stress load, your sleep, your support, and how chaotic the work week is. So, you can make your best guess, but you're still guessing. And if you've been burned by failure before, your brain starts translating achievable as safe, and safe starts to mean small. You end up picking goals that feel almost impossible to mess up, not because you're lazy, but because you're trying to avoid disappointment. The problem is that safe goals don't stretch you, or you swing the other way and set a goal that only works on perfect days, which are rare and mostly fictional, like unicorns or 8 hours of interrupted sleep. Relevant. Sounds wise until you realize that you borrowed it. A lot of goals are not actually yours. They're goals that you absorbed from diet culture, hustle culture, the internet, or your friend who thinks waking up at 4:02 a.m. is self-care. Dang it, I just called myself out. Relevant is supposed to mean aligned with your values, but a lot of people never figure out what their values actually are. They just write down what they think they should value, like productivity, discipline, and never eating bread near witnesses. There's actually this really cool exercise that I do with clients that helps them figure out what they actually value, not what they think they're supposed to value. And when you build goals from that place, they feel way less like a chore and way more like a choice that you're proud of. If you want to do that exercise with me for free, click on the link in the description and book an exploration chat. But make sure that you write the word values in the notes so that I don't accidentally show up thinking we're talking deadlifts. Time-bound. Oh boy, this one's sticky. Time-bound can turn goals into a countdown clock. If you have anxiety, perfectionism, ADHD, or a nervous system that hates pressure, time-bound can actually trigger panic or freeze, and sometimes both. And I used to do this thing where if I missed the deadline, I would act like the entire goal was dead. Even if I was improving, even if I was consistent, and even if I was still on the path. If I didn't arrive on the exact day that I promised, my brain would stamp it failed, and I would spiral like I just got fired from my own life. And it's rarely just I missed the deadline. People turn it into meaning. They start telling themselves that they must not want it badly enough, they must be lazy, they must be incapable of follow-through, they must be all talk. Meanwhile, life is out here doing what life does. People get sick, schedules change, stress spikes, sleep falls apart, work explodes, hormones do whatever hormones do, and instead of adjusting the timeline like a normal human, the deadline turns into a character test. So with all that said, here's the classic example of following the SMART goal structure. Someone sets a goal like walking 10,000 steps every day for 30 days. Sounds simple, sounds healthy, sounds like the kind of thing a person with matching workout socks does on purpose. And then life happens. You miss one day because you had a long work day, or your kid was sick, or it rained, or you were exhausted, or you simply just didn't have it in you. And instead of your brain saying, cool, we'll walk tomorrow, your brain goes straight to dramatic courtroom mode. Streak ruined, goal ruined, everything's ruined. And this is the part where I used to get extra unhinged. If I missed a day, I would try to make up the steps the next day. So now it's not 10,000 steps, it's 15,317. Then if I missed a couple more days, suddenly my one-day goal became to basically walk to the moon and back before dinner. The math would start stacking, the pressure would spike, and the goal would become so ridiculous that my brain would just tap out completely. So now you're not even taking a nice walk, you're emotionally negotiating with a number like it's your boss, trying to earn your own approval back. And that is how a perfectly reasonable habit turns into a shame-flavored performance. This is why these goals can feel amazing in the beginning. Day 1 feels like a fresh start. Day 12 feels like the goal is personally bullying you. But before we move on to the upgraded framework, quick note for anyone who learned SMART goals through NASM like I did. This isn't me trashing structure or saying goal setting is useless. SMART goals can totally be helpful. I just think that when we apply them to human habits, they often need more flexibility so they don't accidentally turn into an all-or-nothing shame machine. NASM, if you're hearing this, I'm still a good student. Please don't put me in detention. Now here's the upgrade. Instead of treating change like a contract, we treat it like a relationship. The stuff that actually builds trust over time. Consistency, flexibility, repair, and learning how to come back after a messy week without making it mean something dramatic about you. So because I'm me, I made my own version that works better for real life. And I call it B.E.A.S.T goals. Because, well, duh. B.E.A.S.T goals defined. Okay, B is for behavior-based, not outcome-based, and not vibe-based. Behavior-based means that you choose the smallest repeatable action. Not eat better, not be disciplined. Those are judgments pretending to be goals. Behavior-based looks more like adding a protein source to breakfast, or stretching for 2 minutes after brushing your teeth, or prepping one snack that you actually like, or putting your walking shoes by the door. If your brain just said, "That's too small to matter," congratulations, hustle culture has entered the chat and is being loud. E is for emotion checked. Before you commit, you check what your body is saying about this goal because your body gets a vote. If the goal immediately makes your chest tighten, your stomach drop, or you feel braced and pressured, that's usually a sign that the goal is too big or too rigid for your current season. And yes, sometimes that pressure is exactly why you keep procrastinating. You're not being lazy, your body's trying to protect you. But let me be dramatic for a second. This is not only about doing things that you're not afraid of. Doing things through fear is how courage gets built. We're just not trying to build courage by launching you straight into shutdown. We want the sweet spot, a little scary and a little doable, challenged but not crushed. A little fear can mean growth. Full panic is a stop sign, so you adjust the goal until your body can say, "I can try this," and then you build from there. A is for adjustable. This is where we stop treating goals like a strict contract and start treating them like an experiment. Because real life isn't consistent, your capacity changes, and a plan that worked in one season might fall apart in the next. Adjustable just means that you pay attention. You look at what you're doing and ask what's working, what's not working, and why. If it's working, you keep it. If it's not working, you don't label it as failure, you just treat it like information. You adjust the behavior, the timing, the environment, the support, the expectations. You make it easier to start, easier to repeat, and more realistic for your actual life. And this is the part that people forget. There's no universal perfect goal. The right habit is the one that you can actually do consistently without hating your life. And what works for you might not work for your friend or your trainer or that person on the internet who drinks celery juice and wakes up at 4:47 a.m. That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong, it just means that you're doing it your way. S is for season specific. Your goals have to respect the season that you're in because caregiving season is different than free time season. Moving season is different than settled season. And pain flare season is different than feeling amazing season. But the end game is not to have a different habit for every season. The end game is to build habits that are so normal for you that they survive all the seasons. Because life is why we build habits in the first place. Not for perfect weeks, for the weeks where everything changes, your schedule gets weird, stress spikes, and your capacity drops. A real habit is something you do without having to negotiate with yourself every time. Like walking. I walk every day. So when life lifes, I can still go for a 10-minute walk because that's just what I do. Not because I have to. Not because I ate a cupcake. Not because I'm trying to earn permission to exist in my body. It's just part of my life, and that's what keeps my health from swinging wildly every time the season shifts. And now I want a cupcake. Okay, T is for time tethered, not time pressured, time tethered. And yes, of course, there are times when a deadline makes perfect sense, like if you're training for a bodybuilding show, a marathon, a competition, or anything with a fixed event date. You need time-bound structure because the calendar isn't going to move just because your week got chaotic. But when we're talking about your health and your body for real life, most goals aren't event-based, they're life-based. You're not trying to peak for one day, you're trying to build something that lasts. And for a lot of people, the moment you attach a deadline to a habit, the brain turns it into a verdict. If they don't hit it on time, it doesn't just mean the timeline needs adjusting. It turns into, it's not working, I failed, I always do this, so why even try? And that moment right there is where the goals quietly die. Not because the person is incapable, but because the goal was built like a trap. Time tethered is simpler because you link the behavior to something that already happens in your day so that it becomes easier to repeat and eventually feels automatic. Instead of trying to remember it or hype yourself up, you build it into your routine. Coffee happens, then water happens. Lunch happens, then a quick walk happens. Keys go down, then comfy clothes go on. You're basically creating a simple cue and response sequence that your brain can follow without needing a motivational speech every time. Tethers create rhythm. Rhythm builds consistency. Consistency turns actions into habits. And once something is a habit, you don't even think about debating it, you just do it. That beats motivation every single time. Before and after example. Let's do a quick before and after so that you can see why this matters. A classic SMART version sounds like working out 5 days a week for 45 minutes at 6 a.m. for the next 12 weeks. And for some people, that actually works, so keep doing it. But for a lot of people, it works for about 6 days until real life shows up with a sick kid, a late night, a meeting that lands on your lap, or a body that is at capacity and not in the mood to be a hero at dawn. Then the plan falls apart and the person assumes that they are the problem. A B.E.A.S.T version starts with identity because identity drives behavior. Instead of making it about proving something, you start with something you actually want to be true about you. Something like being a person who keeps promises to yourself in small ways, or being a person who moves most days in a way that supports your life. Then you build the plan around that identity. You choose a behavior that's repeatable. You check how it feels in your body so you're challenged but not crushed. You adjust based on what you learn instead of calling it a failure. You make it realistic for your current season without pretending your life is a perfectly controlled environment. And you tether it to your day so it becomes part of your routine. After drop-off, you move. After lunch, you walk. After you shut your laptop, you stretch. The point is not to create a perfect plan. The point is to build a pattern that survives real life long enough to become something you do without thinking about it. SMART tries to force consistency through pressure. B.E.A.S.T builds consistency through design. For the people who love structure and numbers. Now, for the people who love structure and numbers, I see you. Some brains genuinely do better with something concrete. This isn't an anti-measurement rant, it's an anti-shame rant. Measurement isn't inherently bad, it's useful when it stays in the category of information and feedback. The problem is that when numbers turn into a character grade. So if you're tracking, cool. Just track the parts that actually build habits. Track reps instead of the ritual. Track how many times you showed up to the behavior you're trying to make automatic. That is real consistency. And if you do better with targets, try ranges instead of one exact number. A range gives you structure without turning your whole day into a pass or fail. The goal is never perfection. The goal is repetition. Structure that adapts is structure that lasts. The 2-week B.E.A.S.T challenge. Okay, let's make this a real conversation and then let's turn it into a tiny challenge. First, in the comments, I just want you to tell me your goal. Keep it simple, just say the goal, no backstory, no explanation, no trying to make it sound impressive. Because I have a challenge for you. It's a 2-week challenge and it's simple, so here we go. Write that same goal exactly how it shows up in your brain. The raw version, the version with all the shoulds and all the pressure. No polishing. That is your starting point because we can't upgrade what we're pretending isn't there. From there, pick an identity statement that feels believable, like being a person who keeps promises to yourself, or being a person who takes care of your health in a way that fits your real life. And then pick one behavior that you can repeat consistently and tether it to something that already happens in your day so that you're not relying on motivation. After coffee, after lunch, After you put your keys down, whatever makes sense for your life. Do that for 2 weeks and track it with a simple check mark. Not an app that threatens your self-esteem, just a check mark so that you can see the pattern. And then notice what happens. When the pattern becomes familiar, it takes less effort. When it takes less effort, you do it more. And when you do it more, it starts to become a habit, the kind you do because it's just what you do, not because you're trying to earn anything. Wrapping it up, if this helped in any way, shape, or form, hit like and subscribe. If SMART goals have been making you feel like you can't stick to anything, it's not a character flaw, and it doesn't mean you're lazy, broken, or incapable of discipline. It usually just means that you've been trying to use a rigid tool for a life that is not rigid. You don't need more willpower. You need a framework that actually accounts for real life, your capacity, your stress, and the fact that you're a whole-ass human and not a productivity machine. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a kind one that you can repeat, a plan that can survive busy weeks, off days, and the random chaos that shows up uninvited. That is how you keep unveiling the beautiful beast within you.